Hello guys. In this video we are going to discuss an article of P.F. Stroshan, or we can say Peter Frederick Stroshan. So there is an article of Stroshan named On Referring, which is a direct response to Bertrand Russell's theory of descriptions. And in this article, Stroshan particularly critiques Russell's formal and logical approach to language and meaning, especially regarding the definite descriptions. For example, the present King of France. So we will see this article. This article of Stroshan is divided into 5 sections, and we will see all of these sections one by one. And in the last, we will also see Russell's response to Stroshan's article, which is itself a response to Russell's own denoting article that Russell wrote in 1905. So we will see that later as well. But before that, let's see the first section of this article of Stroshan on referring. So in this article, Stroshan carefully explains how we use language to refer to things, especially when we talk about individual people, objects, events or places, and why Russell's theory of descriptions is mistaken about how this works in ordinary language. So how Russell's theory of description proves to be a faulty one when it comes to the ordinary language. So in the first section, Stroshan focuses on the idea of uniquely referring use. It is a way we use words to talk about a specific thing. Uniquely referring means we pick out one definite individual through our words. When we say things like this man is tall, Venice is beautiful, he is coming, the old man is tired. So in these sentences, we refer to a particular specific thing. A man, a city, a person, etc. So this is what Stroshan calls uniquely referring use of words. But he also says that not every use is about a specific object. Sometimes words are general as well, not refer to a single thing. For example, when we say the sentence, the whale is a mammal, here the whale refers to the species generally. Here it is not pointing towards a particular whale. But when we say the whale struck the ship, here we are talking about a specific whale, not the species whale in general. Now Stroshan discusses Russell's case, how he explains weird cases like the King of France is wise. Here we can see there is no King of France, but according to Russell, the sentence is still meaningful. He interprets such sentences logically by saying that there is at least one King of France, there is at most one King of France, whoever is King of France is wise. But Stroshan points out a mistake here in Russell's approach. He says that ordinary speakers do not think like Russell's logic. When someone says the King of France is wise, they are presupposing there is a King of France. If there is no king, the statement does not become false. It fails to refer. Stroshan says so, that this statement fails to refer. No true or false claim is made at all. So it is not that the sentence is false, it is the reference that collapses. Stroshan says that Russell has been misled by the grammatical form. He says just because a sentence looks like it has a clear subject and predicate does not mean logically it works that way. Grammatical form is not equal to logical form. So in this first section of his article, Stroshan concludes that not every sentence needs to be true or false if the reference fails. Ordinary language is messier and richer than Russell's logical analysis shows. Now in section 2, Stroshan continues his criticism towards Bertrand Russell's solution to the sentences having no reference. In this section, Strawson distinguishes between a sentence and its use and its utterance, how it is said, and similarly he does the same operation with expressions as well. For Strawson, sentences and expressions are different. Similarly, meaning and reference are also different for Strawson. They are not same, and therefore Strawson distinguishes between meaning and referring in this section of his article. Strawson strongly criticized Bertrand Russell's solution to the problem of sentences like the King of France is wise. Strawson strongly disagrees with Russell's solutions when he says if there is no King of France, then the sentence is simply false. Strawson thinks that Russell made a fundamental mistake about the nature of meaning, reference, and truth. Therefore, Strawson introduces several important distinctions about sentences and expression. You can also see on your screen as well. Here is a distinction between sentence and expression and about their use and their utterance as well. So let's unpack each of these terms. Here, A1 is the sentence itself as a type, independently of any use. For example, the King of France is wise. It is just the sentence abstractly. A2 is the use of a sentence, what someone does with that sentence on a particular occasion. When someone says it during Louis XIV's reign or now. So this is the use of that sentence, the King of France is wise. So in particular context or occasion, we use that sentence. That's the use of a sentence that we see in A2. In A3 is the utterance of a sentence. It is the physical act of speaking or writing the sentence. Similarly, we can distinguish for the expressions as well. B1 is the expression itself. It is just the phrase, the King of France, as an abstract entity. In B2, we see the use of an expression, how someone uses that phrase to refer to someone or something. In B3, we see the utterance of an expression, the physical act of speaking or writing the phrase. Now we can see some examples as well to make it more clear for us. Imagine two men. One says the King of France is wise during Louis XIV's reign. Another says the same sentence during Louis XV's reign. So we can see the same sentence have different uses because they are talking about different kings of different times. Because they are talking about different kings. Now if two men say the King of France is wise at the same time during Louis XIV's reign, they are making the same use of the sentence. Both talking about Louis XIV. But they are still make two different utterances because two different acts of speaking are involved here as well. So from here, Strawson says that sentences themselves are not true or false. Only their use in context can be true or false. Expressions themselves don't refer to anything. Only uses of expressions by speakers in context refer to something or anything. Example, the expression I. When you say I am hot, it refers to you. When I say I am hot, it refers to me. The expression is same in both the cases I am hot. But to different persons when they say in different contexts, the reference then is different. The expression I does not by itself refer to anyone. It is how it is used that determines what or who is referred to. Strawson points out that meaning is not same as referring. Meaning means the rules or conventions for using a sentence or expression, while referring means what happens when someone uses an expression to point to a thing. So the meaning of the King of France is not the king himself. It is the rules for using that phrase to talk about a king if there is one. So that's why Strawson critiques Russell. He says that Russell's confused meaning with referring. Russell thought if a phrase refers to something, then that object is the meaning of the phrase. Strawson says that is wrong. Meaning is about how we use expressions in general. Referring is something that happens on a particular occasion. Thus, even if there is no King of France now, the sentence the King of France is wise is still meaningful. It is just that a particular use of the sentence might fail. That is, the speaker might be pretending or mistaken or confused. Therefore, Strauss says the meaningfulness or significance of a sentence is independent of whether a particular use of it is true or false, or whether it successfully refers to something. In short, he says sentences have meanings, rules for their use. Speakers use sentences to refer and assert. Whether an assertion is true or false depends on whether, in a specific use, the speaker is actually referring to something real. So that's the stand of Strauss here. Now let's talk about the third section of this article, where Strauss talks about the true things Russell says about the sentences like the King of France is wise, and similarly the false things that Russell says about the sentences like these. Then Strauss criticized Russell's approach on the same. Then Strauss makes the distinction between significance and truth or falsity, and make the distinction between referring and asserting. So let's see what are the true things Russell says about the sentence like the King of France is wise first. Strauss says that it is significant. Even today, if someone says the King of France is wise, the sentence would be meaningful. It is understandable English, not nonsense. It has sense. Second, what is true about Russell's approach is the conditions for truth. Russell says that if the sentences were true, two things would have to be the case. There would have to be exactly one King of France right now. That king would have to be wise. So these are the true things Russell says about the sentence, the King of France is wise. Now let's see what are the false things Russell says. Russell says anyone uttering the sentence now would be either making a true or false assertion. But the criticism of Russell here is they are not making either a true or false assertion. Because there is no King of France, the situation required for judging it true or false does not even arise. So the reference itself is not there. So there is no the question of true or false either. Second false thing about the sentence is the assertion that there is one and only one King of France. Here speaker implies that there is a King of France, but they are not explicitly asserted it as the part of their sentence, as criticized by Strauss for this. Strauss says just because a sentence uses a phrase like the King of France, it does not mean the speaker is asserting that such a person exists. Instead, the speaker's use of the implies that they think there is such a person, but that is different from asserting it. For example, suppose someone says seriously, the King of France is wise. You would not say that is false. Instead, you would say something like, wait, there is no King of France. In other words, the sentence fails not because it is false, but because it tries to refer to someone who does not exist. Similarly, when someone says this is a fine red one while showing you empty hands, you would not contradict them. You would say there is nothing there. How can you say that there is a fine red one if you are showing your hands empty? So Strauss says that the failure is in the reference, not in the truth value. Now here Strauss makes two more distinctions. One is between significance and truth or falsity, and another one between referring and asserting. So what is the significance or meaningfulness of a sentence? A sentence can be meaningful even if it does not manage to be true or false in a particular use. So by distinguishing between these two, Strauss says a sentence can be meaningful even if it does not manage to be true or false in a particular use. मतलब एक सेंटेंस मीनिंगफुल हो सकता है, सिग्निफिकेंट हो सकता है, चाहे वो ट्रू हो या फॉल्स हो किसी पर्टिकुलर यूज में, वो मैटर नहीं करता. अब बात करते हैं रेफरिंग वर्सेस asserting की. What is the distinction between referring and asserting? These two are not same for Strauss. They are different. Referring to something like the King of France is not the same as asserting that the thing exists for Strauss. He says that we can attempt to refer and sometimes our reference fails, but that is different from making a false statement. For him, Reference, to make reference about anything, about anyone, is not same about making a false claim. For him, referring to someone and asserting some fact are different. They are not same. Here, one more critical point Strawson raises against Russell. He says that Russell tries to treat sentences like the King of France is wise as combinations of existence claims and predicate claims. But that is wrong in the eye of Strawson. For Strawson, referring to something is a basic function of language that cannot be reduced or replaced by logical assertions. For Strawson, existence is not asserted by saying the King of France. It is presupposed here. It is not asserted. Existence is not asserted here. Now let's talk about the fourth section of this article, where Strawson took a detailed analysis of how language functions when we state facts, particularly focusing on the distinction between referring and attributing or describing, and what are its implications for logic, grammar, and meaning. So let's see it. Strawson says that there are two main tasks of fact-stating language. Strawson says when we use language to state facts, we perform two essential tasks. First is referring or identifying, and second is attributing or describing. Referring means pointing out what or who we are talking about, and attributing is saying something about the thing or person we are referring to. For example, the sentence is the cat is black. Here the cat is a referring expression. Is black is an attributive expression. So these two tasks are roughly associated with subject and predicate in grammar. But Strawson warns us that this is only an approximation, not a rigid rule. For Strawson, referring and attributing can be separated or combined. He says that we can also communicate facts without clearly separating these roles. For example, when we point to something and says dangerous, here we don't have subject and predicate as such, but through context we can clearly identify the object, or we can refer the object through context here. Another example is of a vegetable which is labeled as a first prize. This label, first prize, implies both reference and attribution. So, Strawson stresses that these ways of using language are not metaphysically deep, but they are conventions of language. This is how traditionally language is used. Now, by making the distinction between referring and attributing, Strawson says in ascriptive or descriptive use, the expression must accurately describe the thing. For example, is red applies only if the object is red. In referring use, the expression must relate correctly to the context, not just to properties. For instance, the word he refers to someone only in the given context. Also, when fulfill the conditions for correct attribution is part of what is stated. But in case of reference, fulfilling the conditions for correct reference is not part of what is stated, but it is implied. Strawson criticizes logic for focusing too much on definitions. Definitions which deal with descriptive conditions, not with contextual reference. And it also focuses too much. Logic focuses too much on formal systems like those in mathematics, where naming and context are less relevant. So this led philosophers like Leibniz and Russell to try to reduce unique reference to something purely logical, which Strawson sees as a mistake. For Strawson, logic neglects referring. Strawson emphasizes on the thing that the difference is not between types of words, but between the roles words play. Some expressions like proper names are mainly used for reference, but others like adjectives are mainly used to attribute properties. Some can do both, like common nouns. Common nouns can do both. They can be used for reference as well as they can use to attribute properties. So these are the distinctions between referring and different types of expressions. Now Strauss talks about the variation that we see among referring expressions. They differ in terms of context dependency, descriptive content, and rules of their use. Let's first see context dependence. For example, I is highly context bound, but the author of Waverley, it is not context bound. Second is descriptive content. Some has more descriptive content, some has less, and some has none. For example, Horace has no descriptive content, but the red chair, it has more descriptive content. Oh, if you don't know what is Horace, Strauss called proper names like men, dogs, or motor bicycles as Horace. Okay, now let's see what is the third one. That is rules of use. Some have general rules like pronouns, others have ad hoc rules like most proper names. So the variation can also be there due to rules of use. Strauss says that proper names are not tied to unique individuals. Many people can be named John. So the correct use of proper names depends on convention, not description or rules. If we try to reduce names to descriptions as Russell did, this leads to circularity or confusion according to Strauss. Strauss says some expressions like the Great War or the Round Table, these are the phrases that have become names. They straddle the line between reference and description. Capitalization signals that they are being used like names. Strauss says that naming conventions could be systematized differently, example by birth dates. But what matters is their usefulness for making unique references. In section 5th of the article, Strauss elaborates on three complex issues related to the referring use of expressions in natural language: indefinite references, identification statements, and the logic of subjects and predicates. So let's see them one by one. First, talk about the indefinite references. Strauss says not all uses of singular expressions clearly identify a specific individual. Phrases like a man told me or someone said don't pinpoint a definite individual. According to Russell, these are existential statements. Means they assert that someone or anyone with certain characteristics exists. But Strauss critiques this view. He argues it is silly to say such a statement asserts the existence of the class of people. That is not what is actually being communicated. Instead, the definite article the is used when a previous reference has been made or the context helps identify a specific person. The indefinite article a or some is used when the speaker either can't or won't identify the specific referent, even if they could. For example, a certain person means I know who, but I won't tell you. So this is how indefinite references work as per Strauss. Now let's see identification statements. Sentences like that is the man who are not the same as straightforward statements about someone doing something. For example, that is the man who swam the channel twice in one day. Second statement, that man swam the channel twice in one day. Both these statements refer to the same person and attribute the same feat, but these are used in different contexts. First statement answers the question who swam the channel twice. It identifies that person. Second statement simply asserts that this man did that. He swam the channel twice in one day. So this involves a Russellian puzzle. It seems redundant or trivial to say something like Napoleon was the man who did this or that, or we can say Napoleon did this or that. So it is Napoleon Bostein's. But Strauss explains such statements function like answers to questions about identity, not mere identity statements. Now let's see the third one, the logic of subjects and predicates. Here, quantified expressions like all, some, or the behave differently than formal logic suggests, especially regarding existential implications. Example, the square of opposition assumes that universal statements like all x's are y's imply there are x's. Modern logic often denies this, saying all unicorns are blue is logically true, even if there are no unicorns. अगर यूनिकॉर्न्स है भी नहीं तब भी ट्रू होगा मॉडर्न लॉजिक में. ट्रेडिशनल लॉजिक में अगर स्टेटमेंट है ऑल एक्सिस आर वाइज तो वहां पर इंप्लाई हो जाता है कि एक्सिस हैं. स्ट्रोशन डिसएग्री करते हैं इन दोनों से ही. स्ट्रोशन आर्ग्यू करते हैं कि इन ऑर्डिनरी लैंग्वेज such statements are only meaningful when the subject term has real world reference. If a man without children is asked, are all your children asleep? He would not answer yes or no. He would say the question does not arise. भाई मेरे बच्चे है ही नहीं तो वो सो गए हैं या नहीं सोए हैं इसका क्या मतलब. जब है ही नहीं क्वेश्चन नहीं उठता है ये. So existential import is a part of how we use language. Existential import means the idea that something must exist for the sentence to be meaningful. So here for Strauss, both Aristotelian and Russellian logics fail to fully capture how ordinary language works. Here in this section, the overall point of Strauss was that the real logic of how we use language to refer to things is richer and more context sensitive than formal systems, as of Russell's, can account for. Strauss believes that ordinary language reflects real communicative intentions, including assumptions about what is known, about what is being withheld, and whether something even exists. Now we will see Russell's polemical reply to Strauss. Polemical means critical reply that he gave to Strauss's article on referring, which is itself a response to Russell's article on denoting. So let's first go through the context of the debate, how it all started. So Russell's theory of description, presented by Russell in his paper on denoting in 1905, he argues in this that sentences involving definite description can be logically analyzed to eliminate the description, resolving issues of reference and truth value, especially when the referent does not exist, like the present King of France. Strauss, in his article in 1950, challenged this view. Strauss argued that Russell misunderstood how language is ordinarily used. According to Strauss, we do not typically use description to make existential claims. Says the present King of France is bald is neither true nor false. If there is no King of France, it is just infelicitous, a failed reference, not a false statement. The meaning of such sentences depends on context, speaker intentions, and how language operates in practice. So now Russell replies to Strauss. He says that Strauss conflates or confused between two distinct problems, the problem of descriptions and the problem of egocentricity. The problem of description is how we talk about things that may not exist. The problem of egocentricity is how words like here, now, I refer based on context. Russell says that I treated them separately, but Strauss allegedly merges them to criticize me unfairly. Second blame that Russell puts on Strauss is that Strauss cherry-picked his examples to suit his case. He ignored helpful examples like Scott is the author of Waverley. Instead, he focused on the present King of France is bald, where the word present invites egocentric interpretations. Russell also claimed that the so-called insights that Strauss presents about egocentric words like this or here had already been explored by me, Russell, in my book Human Knowledge in 1948. But Strauss gave no credit to me and appears as unaware of my prior works. Russell, in defense of technical language in philosophy, argues that ordinary language is too vague and imprecise for philosophical rigor. Just as sciences require precise technical terms, so too should philosophy. On truth and falsity, Russell disagrees with Strauss's claim that sentences like "the King of France is wise" are neither true nor false. Russell maintains it is false if the reference does not exist. He calls this a matter of verbal convenience, not metaphysical depth. Russell notes that Strauss criticized the very idea of logically proper names and descriptions, yet contradicts himself when critiquing Quine's related views. Russell believes words must refer to something to be meaningful, and he defends ostensive definitions as a way of grounding meaning in experience. On universal statements, Russell argues that unlike traditional logic where all A is B implies that A exists, modern logic and his view, Strauss's view, allows such a sentence to be true even when there are no A's again, a matter of practical logical convenience. Russell closes his argument by criticizing Strauss's dogmatic tone and assumption that common language is sacrosanct. Whereas Russell believes philosophical clarity requires revising and refining ordinary language. So Russell defends his theory of description by attacking or accusing Strauss of misrepresenting his work, confusing two distinct problems and unjustly dismissing the need for logical precision in philosophy. For Russell, language must be sharpened for philosophical analysis, even if it departs from everyday uses. So that's it from my side on this topic. I hope you guys got some clarity on this topic and find this video helpful. If yes, then click that like button and share this video with your friends and subscribe the channel for further more videos like this. Thank you.